Good afternoon. We're back with our second session this afternoon, and it gives me great pleasure to introduce this panel. We've looked at financial inclusion and post-pandemic, what we are need to do for the people on the street, and how fintech is going to be an integral part of the recovery. But what about SMEs? They also need products and services and help. So we have a very esteemed panel here. I'm going to introduce the moderator, Maria Brumberg, who's head of payments at PaymentsOp. Obviously, she'll tell you more about herself. And we also have Otni Oron that I just wanted to mention quickly, because as I just told the guys backstage, I cannot do FinTech Week Tel Aviv without Otni Oron. He is my sidekick and a great guy. So please, without further ado, let me bring the guys on the stage, or better still, let me disappear from the stage and let these guys get on with it. So thank you very much, Maria.
Thank you, Johnny. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the second session of day 2 of FinTech Week Tel Aviv. We're happy to see you. This session will be discussing small and medium businesses and the tech solution that help them. Commerce digitalization have been a trend over the past years. However, despite the potential of these solutions, small and medium-sized businesses lagged in the adoption of digital technologies. Main reasons for the delay in adoption are cited to be lack of resources, insufficient awareness regarding the best practices, or scarcity of solutions that match small businesses. It is quite clear that 2020 was a turning point for SMEs, as COVID accelerated the adoption of digital tools and forced both shoppers and merchants to rely on e-commerce and omni-channel technologies to sell and buy products. SMEs were affected during the COVID pandemic, and they had to adopt fast tools like e-commerce, marketing tools, SaaS tools to manage operation, cash flow, as well as online banking. In this session, we're going to discuss technologies focused on SMEs that emerged this year or leaped forward and developed their product, as well as we will debate the emerging industry trends. I am Maria Brumberg, and I will be your moderator for this session. And without any further delay, I will introduce our panelists. I will start with Otni Oron, FinTech Sector Manager at UK Israel Tech Hub. Otni, will you present yourself and the venture?
Sure, yeah. The UK Israel Tech Hub is it's actually a team. It's a mission within the UK Embassy in Israel, and we typically work with mainly with businesses within the UK, connecting them to the most relevant and kind of really the best technology available in Israel, with the idea of helping the UK economy in large, and specifically doing now projects around SMEs as well.
Okay, I will next introduce Moshe Kazimirsky, VP Strategic Partnership and Business Development at Become. Moshe, could you please tell us a bit more about Become and yourself?
Absolutely, thank you, Maria. So Become is a very unique and sophisticated marketplace for small businesses and funding solution. We've been operating for the past 5 years in a few markets. The main one is the US one in Australia. And we're helping small businesses finding the right funding solution for them. So far, we've done more than $300 million in funding solution. And obviously in the past year, when the pandemic started, we started focusing mainly on e-commerce and supporting small businesses with the transition from brick and mortar to e-commerce.
Thank you very much. Next, I will present Jan Lazarev, founder and CEO at Gaviti. Jan, could you please tell us a few words about Gaviti and yourself?
Yeah, with pleasure. Gaviti is a receivable collection management solution. We enable finance teams of SMEs to get more of their invoices paid faster, increase cash flow, reduce DSO, and make the whole collection process smarter, data-driven, more holistic.
Thank you. And last but not least, Avi Bartov, co-founder and CEO at Gamesec. Avi, please introduce Gamesec and yourself in a few words.
Thank you, Maria. So Gamasec integrating cybersecurity into cyber insurance at the SMB level. Our customer, the SMB policy, purchased a cyber insurance policy, integrated a cybersecurity solution in order to prevent and to minimize the risk that they are taking. That's what Gamasec is doing.
Thank you very much. Before we start with questions, I want to remind the audience that you can ask questions to this panel. You have a chat and you can type the question. And please note that it can take us a few minutes to respond to your question because we need to read it first. But you're welcome to address us. And I think I will start with the first question, which is probably going to be quite obvious. Let's discuss the insights that you can share with us on the state of digitalization among small and medium businesses in early 2020 and the process of adoption that happened throughout the year, the COVID year, let's say like this. What changes in priorities, what new needs, urgencies did you see among merchants? Please, I would ask Moshe to start.
Yeah, absolutely. So what happened at the beginning of 2020 was that suddenly everything changed. Merchant suddenly had to close their businesses. Everybody got locked down, and the marketplaces as we know them, the brick and mortar, suddenly stopped and put everybody in a really strange situation. Merchant don't know how to reach their clients. In meantime, they need to operate the business. They need to keep their employees. And it's actually brought the world into fast forward processes for going online. The one that were ready obviously did well, but small businesses, many of them didn't have any online presence and they had to adapt and quickly. So we saw a lot of processes around e-commerce, how to brick and mortar businesses, small businesses now need to learn about how to go online, how to develop an online shop, how to reach the customers on the marketing side. And that's opened a lot of new opportunity for fintech companies to come and fill the gap, fill the vacuum, and supporting those businesses. On the other hand, on the operational side, a lot of things changes as well. Think about businesses that the daily routine was, finish their day of work, going to the bank, deposit cash, checks. Suddenly the banks are closed. They cannot use their regular branch anymore. They need to learn how to adopt new processes such as online banking. So it's actually brought everybody into like a mini chaos before everything actually arise and e-commerce actually leap into, I think in 2020, probably we are getting to a fast forward of like 4 or 5 years in this industry. Yeah.
Okay, so I think also it would be interesting to ask Avi, what did you observe, from your side?
Thank you, Maria. Yeah, I think that is very similar. What we saw is that first business that up to now were definitely not providing a connection to customer online, like lawyer, accounting. Suddenly people were not coming to the office, so they provide customer access to information to download document, and therefore they open themselves to their customer, but also open themselves to cyber attack. On the other hand, we see also a lot of e-commerce companies that up to now were doing 20-30% of their business online. Now the 80% of the business was online. So they need to adapt themselves in order to provide a higher capacity to their customer. And of course, all those provide more and more attack and more data breach. And that's where the security, especially at SMB, as you said at the beginning, lack of personnel, lack of budget, provide them today as 64% of all the data breach worldwide are against SMBs.
Okay, that's interesting and scary. Jan, do you have anything to add from your perspective on this?
Yeah, definitely. On our end, COVID was the why now event for any type of digital transformation for finance and finance operation processes. There was a recent study conducted by American Express and Payments.com stating that 70% of CFOs now consider to digitally transform their finance operation processes to introduce tools, solution, most of them SaaS, to improve those processes. This is almost double versus similar studies a year prior, meaning end of 2019, early 2020. So basically, COVID pushed a lot of companies because of lockdowns, because of need to reduce staff, because of inability to work efficiently in the office, to just change their whole process, introduce new tools, and innovate.
Okay, and so now I would like to ask Otni, because you see this from from a little bit different perspective. The Tech Hub, its goal is to drive economic growth by helping businesses in the United Kingdom to partner with technological solutions from Israel. So during 2020, what was the situation in the beginning of the year prior to pandemic, and what happened, and how did government, for example, in the UK, facilitate this process of adoption of new tools for SMBs?
Yeah, it's a big question. Before delving into the specifics, it is important to know that in many ways, SMEs challenges are quite similar anywhere in the world. It could vary, but generally speaking, it's quite the same. SMBs are the backbone of the economy. It's also kind of pretty much true everywhere. They are constantly underserved, varying size in sectors. There's so many of them. They get flushed down enterprise solution or flushed up private B2C type of solution. And SMB in the UK is defined of having up to 250 employees. Total number of businesses in the UK is 6 million, of which, let's do it as a question maybe to the audience. How many businesses in the UK do you think are not SMEs? Okay, that's 6 million businesses in the UK. How many are not SMEs? Maybe someone will be courageous enough to put something in the chat. I don't think. Okay, I'll help you with the tough one. So the number is
There is somebody in the chat.
Okay,
yeah, 500,000, I think it's.
Okay.
43. the correct answer is 42. We all know.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So the number is just under 8,000. 7,700 businesses are not SMBs out of 6 million. Okay, that's a big chunk to be underserved. Okay, so obviously, by the way, you need two for tango. So SMBs, I'm generalizing a lot, but generally they didn't put tech. Didn't emphasize that too much. Now, from a government perspective, the most immediate need, when with COVID, okay, enter COVID. So the most immediate need, obviously, is to make sure they survive. Okay, so we talked about SMBs being the backbone of the economy. From a national economy perspective, you have to make sure it's retained. So the first thing, there was a lot of kind of government initiative, government programs, but definitely the heart of it was dedicated loan schemes. So you have around over £1.5 million loans granted, okay, total of 70 billion pounds or something like that. The critical factor for sure in this pandemic, beyond everything, just to keep them alive, was that now technology is being addressed as a major part of the solution. That's true from a government side, but it's also true from the SMB side themselves. And this is maybe the best indicator for change. So again, taking the government perspective, so now the UK government, after the initial shock, wanted to find a way to help SMBs long-term, not just short-term. So finding a sustainable solution, really thinking on business resilience. One such program is the Metri program, which I happen to lead in the UK Israel Tech Hub. So the UK Israel Tech Hub, together with SIN, which is Science and Innovation Network, together with BASE, which is Business, Energy and Industrial Strategy Department in the UK government. It's a lot of acronym, but we're a government, so it is what it is. But the essence is really to help SMBs go digital with the realization that in our world, going digital is going resilient, really. So the idea here is really to reach these goals by solving one problem at a time and matching the solutions, the technology solution, to the immediate needs and capacity and resources available to an SME, which we already discussed. It's pretty much scarce. So the focus, really kind of summing everything up, the focus is on smart matchmaking of SMBs with technology companies, focusing on practical, down-to-earth solution, really kind of focusing on immediate problems and build on that forward. Strong partners network of UK enterprises in order to reach those 6 million businesses. As part of this program, we're creating a portfolio of startups serving SMBs. The startups here are part of this portfolio. As far as I know, this is the only SMB tech portfolio currently in the Israeli ecosystem. I'm sure they're going to be much more very soon. So that's it. The essence is really to think big, digital transformation, resilience, and all that, but to act very, very small and answer immediate needs of the SMB.
Yeah, I can add about what happened here in the US between the governments and the small businesses. So as you probably know, when the pandemic started, the government actually brought a stimulation package, which hundreds of billions of them were a program called PPP, Payment Protection Plan. It was supposed to help small businesses mainly maintain their workforce by giving them a loan that if they actually keep more than 75% of their workforce, it become they actually clean the loan and just give it as a grant. What happened is that the SBA, the Small Business Administration, issue around $700 billion, and the money in the first 2 weeks couldn't get into the small businesses because they use traditional institutions, which big banks, which had the facility to actually provide those loans and funds. And obviously they gave it only to the big customers. The average loan size was more than $1 million, and the money couldn't get into the small businesses, the brick and mortar, the really one that actually stabilizing the economy. Only after a couple of weeks, when they more or less realized that they need to use fintechs, mainly fintech lenders, the process started moving. The technology came into the flow. Fintech companies, many of them are actually like Israelis, American companies such as Blue Line and Fundbox and others such as Cabbage, were actually able to process this one quickly and automatically. And only after a month, small businesses actually got the funds. And that was a huge step for the government and SBA to realize that fintech companies are actually the key for the digital world.
Okay,
to the credit of the UK government, just to say, they actually put fintechs. There are over 100 accredited lenders. A big chunk of them actually are fintechs, not tier one banks at all. They did almost from day one. So just to give,
Yeah. So it took the US government a couple of weeks to realize that.
Yeah.
They need to move fast.
Yeah. So it's clearly that there was a special role for the tech companies here. So maybe as next question will be somewhat connected to that statement. So now we have small and medium businesses that already understood that technology is good and that they should adapt these technologies because you never know what can happen, and you need all of a sudden all these tools. However, it's all new to them, and they lack resources like dev resources or financial resources or general understanding of these technologies. Which blockers did you see that SMEs faced during this digitalization process in 2020, and which tips you think will be useful for such smaller merchants to do this transformation in the best possible way? Can we maybe start with Avi?
No. Yeah, thank you.
Yes,
so I think that one of the things that you said, and the SME, they had to go digital. That was a first issue for them. But as we said, lack of personnel, lack of budget, the security was a big issue for them. They've been afraid about what they are doing. We saw some government, for example, in Hong Kong and Singapore, that provide the cost of 75% of all the security measure that those SMB had to employ in order to go digital. So I think that from what we saw in 2020, and now we are seeing it a bit different, the main issue was how to protect the information, how to protect the connection between the customer, between the company through the digital, especially for companies that were not there a few months before the COVID-19.
And Jan, do you have any, most common problems that your customers may be facing, and what would be the best way, to do things correctly?
For sure. So many of small and medium-sized businesses need to face three problems when trying to digitize. First, obviously, like Avi mentioned, would be budget. They don't have enterprise type budget with millions of dollars. Second is actually timetables and internal headcount. So especially during crisis, many businesses needed a quick remedy, in our case, for the receivable collection process. And for them, it was really meaningful to understand what would be the time to deliver. Are we talking days, weeks, or it's a 12-month project, in which case it's completely irrelevant for them, because half of those businesses couldn't even tell if there will be around in 12 months. And last, but probably most crucial one, is focus. When they try to find solutions, it was important for them to focus to understand what are the top priority for each solution. Otherwise, they would end up with a longer internal process to decide, and then vendor choice process would be really impractical and would take all the time they needed during the crisis, would just prolong the process and make integration of many solutions unfeasible, because by that point they have 6 or 8 or 10 months past from beginning of the crisis, and obviously they would find themselves very tough spot without going digital for so long.
Thank you. And Moshe, what do you say about most common blockers and most useful tips to go digital?
Yeah. So I think the main blocker was how to deal with the new world, meaning how to actually get into the digital world, the e-commerce world, and that's combination of a lot of knowledge that we're missing. Try to understand how to do right marketing, how to get into the right audience, how to use social medias in order to reach out to your customers. I don't know if it's a blocker or not, but a good change was that suddenly they realized that the customers are not only the one in their territory, they can be worldwide, they can be all over the world. How to deal with this one operationally, and also how to financially manage all this operation, how to know, how to run a budget, how to get cash flow, how to get funding if needed. So that was a really new role for them, and all fintech companies, including Become, actually brought a lot of new technology and a lot of new product to this game. When we noticed the change, we developed a calculation tool for small businesses to more learn how the business work online. Not only income, because there's so many other expenses that I'm not even aware of in the daily routine, and how to know to run a budget. And the second thing is how to get cash flow, how to get funding for those operations, because banks are closed, credit box of lenders and creditors changed dramatically. Nobody is releasing any funds, and they need to find the right funding solution for them in order to maintain the business and also to keep growing.
Okay, and Otni, did you see anything on your side, maybe from from the other startups that you saw, how usually the businesses approach that, and if there were any blockers or difficulties, and how would you recommend to address that?
Yeah. Maybe I'll keep my answer to kind of a broader level of blocks and tips, but first, we have to acknowledge that for SMBs, every link in the chain is a small hill to conquer, right? So they don't know how to first, like addressing that technology can be a solution. Thankfully, we had a pandemic to address that, but also, you know, where to even start. Jan said like really nicely, like how to find, how to assess, how to implement solution. So, and doing all that with very limited resources, and you know, they can barely take risks. So it's a very limiting structure. So I would kind of maybe, again, doing like a high level tip. So level 1 tip, okay, would be if you're only starting, focus on removing negative, seek to remove negative. So if you have, you know, thinking of what technology can do to me could be very daunting when you're just starting and didn't do any such kind of project of implementation. So focus on what are the tasks or the processes or the results that you are seeking, and try to find to Google some specific solutions. Could be an easier start. Level 2 kind of tip is forget level 1, okay? And really include tech in your, let's call it, work on the business, okay? So you can work in the business and, you know, find customers and serving customers and all that, but you can work on the business and more strategically finding maybe new markets and all of that. So make sure to include on this kind of work on the business time also some inspiration for learning about new technologies, because many of the solutions that you will read about and learn about, you would never thought existed until you actually learned about actively. So that would be kind of level 2. And a general tip, which doesn't relate to technology at all, find a community of SMBs. That's a great way to accelerate learning curves. Yeah.
Wow, that's really good tips, and that actually leads me to the next question that I wanted to ask. So basically, you know, we start to see, you know, the light at the end of the tunnel, and you know, people are getting vaccinated, and things are slowly but surely start to get sort of back to normal. There is a recovery process, and now once, you know, we already adopted some of the tools and we are aware of the technologies and how they can help us, how can smaller businesses build their path beyond recovery and leverage digital tools for success and business expansion? Okay, how can they, again, evaluate tools? How can they build their own, let's say, roadmap in some way, and, you know, expand the business by using new tools and new technologies? Moshe, do you want to take this?
Yeah, of course. So it's quite obvious that e-commerce is here to stay, and it's going to be the majority of the market. So I think what we will see more and more fintech companies going around those marketplaces. Funny things that I actually saw a couple of weeks ago. I saw an article saying who are in 2020 who are the most innovative companies. The first one, can you actually try and guess who are the 3 top innovative companies in 2020?
Wow.
Anyway, I will save it to you. The first one was Moderna, obviously. The second one was Pfizer. And the third one was actually Shopify. So it seems like, you know, marketplaces, e-commerce is going to be the new world. And I think what we will see are a lot of new tools, a lot of companies, a lot of applications around marketplaces, around e-commerce, and mainly digitizing everything. That's also something that we at Become are doing. We are trying to help businesses to actually swim well in this new world, providing them the tools, providing them the finance if they need. So I think what we will see is a great combination between all traditional brick and mortar and e-commerce.
Yeah, right. So definitely omni-channel, and let's say today it's even like customizable, you know, checkout experiences became very common, and there are many different options, definitely. So I would also want to ask Jan what he thinks about path beyond recovery. How can small businesses build roadmap correctly and to use technologies to expand?
Actually, I think it's probably the greatest time in history to start a business, would be a small business. These days, the tech available to those businesses is usually as good as available to any large enterprise, mostly at fraction of the cost. which allows really small, medium-sized businesses to operate, to create processes at the same efficiency level as their larger counterparts. So your processes could be completely scalable with way smaller workforce, so it affects your budget. It would also affect your strategy. It affects your reach. So, and we actually seen businesses growing rapidly. Businesses that are agile enough, which is most often smaller ones, growing rapidly during COVID with use of technology, where you could use online tools for your sales process, for your operations, for anything else, and work remotely. Those businesses skyrocketed in the last 12 months.
Thank you. And Avi, what do you say from perspective of cybersecurity, fraud prevention, and all the industry that comes together with with e-com?
Thank you. So I think that indeed the enterprise that start to touch the digital and the online will not come back, will not go back to do nothing. On the contrary, they understand that now the world is smaller. They can have access to the other part of the world very easily as the big guys, and they want to take part of it. But they also understand that in order to do so, they need to be more secure, and they need to adapt themselves more from the technology point of view, from the security point of view, from the insurance point of view, to those kind of newcomers that they were not part before. And I think that's what we are going to see in 2021. Those companies are going to adapt themselves to find a niche market that now it's more appropriate to them and to provide a better solution.
And do you think that this awareness of the of the cyber attacks and the data breaches and so on is something that is here, and it's going to continue? The small businesses will be more involved in these areas.
So the first reaction that we saw with small business, it will not happen to us because we are too small. So that's the first reaction. But unfortunately, today we see, as I said at the beginning, that the majority of the cyber attack are against the SMB. The reason that the SMB are not on the front page of the newspaper is because it's not interesting so much. The newspaper prefer to say when British Airways or a big company been under a cyber attack, but it's happened every day. And when you ask today a C-level manager, what is the main preoccupation of them today? Data breach and reputation damage caused by cyber attack, that's the main preoccupation that they have. So I think that's mean everything.
And I think it's very interesting, right? Because if you would ask like a CFO or somebody in a smaller business a few years back, they would hardly understand what you want from them.
Absolutely, you're absolutely right. A few years ago, cyber attack was only read by IT security guy in IT security newspaper, and today everyone that opened the news can hear about it, and every company feel concerned.
Great, and Otni, I will get back to you again as the main representative of the UK government on this panel.
I'm here for you.
So. Definitely, during the crisis, the government, put in, they have forced, first of all, to connect to, to these technological companies. They had to put money, to help SMBs. But now that we're, sort of out of the woods and we're getting, out of this pandemic, do you think the governments will continue to, to invest in these programs? Do you think it's still important and everybody understands that SMBs need these tools to prosper because, as you said, they're the backbone of the economy?
100%, yeah, there's no doubt about it, but definitely the focus is going to change. If the focus first was, again, kind of deal with the initial shock, now definitely the thinking is much more long-term. And there's many ways they can do it. The dedicated programs, just like the Metri, is one of them. The government ultimate weapon, it's the taxes, so tax deduction. In the UK, they have now the super deduction tax. Okay, so it's a great way to incentivize SMBs. For every pound SMBs are investing in technology solution, they get 25% back as a tax deduction. It's a great way to incentivize and also to take some of the risk away. So indeed an ultimate weapon of the government. But also they can help in, I talked about communities earlier. Forging communities is not necessarily a government initiative, but definitely they can help and support that. So these are different tools that the government can and probably will do.
Great. And Moshe, do you see anything similar in the United States? Some governmental programs or initiatives, sort of to bring together, technologies and small businesses, and make them aware of the tools?
Yeah, well, I think it's mainly for the government to actually use those tools. What happened is that they realized the need of digital tools, mainly around financing, and that's going to change things forever. It came with the pandemic because they had to more or less provide funds and very quickly to small businesses. But the programs that they had before, such as the Small Business Administration, were always there. But those processes used to take very long time, normally around 3 or 4 months in order to get some kind of a funding. Now, with the use of fintech and new technologies and new processes, it can take a few weeks, not more than that. I also very much agree on communities. I think since we all got in a lockdown all over the world, the online communities actually become the new place to be, not only for knowledge, but also to sell stuff, learn about new technologies, understand what's going on. And I think the government realized this one, and also very much supporting on reach out and communicate with merchant and also shoppers via social medias, via different channels. That actually expedite everything.
Great. So I think again now we have just a few minutes left till the end of the session. I will ask you all, the question that is usually asked at the end of the panel, and just you can go wild with that. Which innovation trends in the technology for SMBs do you think will happen in the next, let's say, 12 to 24 months? Let's start with Jan.
Perfect. Thank you. What we expect to see is more robotic process automation or any operational workflow automation and optimization based on the data generated. The fact that a couple years ago, all those small businesses didn't have any data around their processes, and now they get to use super smart tools, many times even better because they're next gen than what their larger counterparts use, and optimize their processes in finance, logistics, or elsewhere. I think will be very much appealing, especially with large part of workforce still working remotely, or especially for organizations that had to reduce their headcount because of the recent situation.
Okay, great. And Moshe, what do you think will happen in the next couple of years, tech for SMEs?
So I think we will see, we are seeing, and we'll still see a huge jump into online marketing and e-commerce. It's, the data is there, and it's how to use the data to reach out more customers, new marketing channels. I think we will see great combinations of social medias and e-commerce. And I think we will see the world actually shifting to online. Nobody will skip the brick and mortar. It's still going to be there, but I think businesses, mainly small businesses, will realize that they must have an online presence, and that's going to be the key, the main driver of the business. And on top of that, they will need the digital tools to do it, and we will see a lot of new fintech companies providing amazing tools to support those small businesses.
Okay, I see that Johnny has joined us.
Sure.
Johnny,
Yeah,
which predictions do you have for the next 12 to 24 months?
I just wanted to say that wanted to leave the last word for Otni, of course.
Yeah. Otni, so let just share with us your opinion. What is going to happen?
Oh wow, thanks. I think we've skipped.
John gave up on his turn.
Okay, so I'll say very quickly. First, SMB Tech is a term, so we better get used to it. We're definitely going to see large enterprises realize the power of SMBs, and maybe acknowledging here, for example, Avi with the great collaboration of Gamasec and CNA Hardy. We see Wix and Waterfront. So this kind of collaboration we're going to see more and more. And last thing, I think that kind of 80-20 rule, okay, what Wix did to web design, we can see more and more startups doing that and really create simplicity and low price relevant to SMBs. So Jan here, we can tell you about it. You do a version of that. Avi here also is doing a version of that. Pecan, for example, do that for AI, predictive analytics. So yeah, I think we're going to see some of that as well.
I think the marketplace model is the way forward. Integration, obviously, collaboration, integration in the marketplace, bringing in microservices, and that is the best way to really help SMEs in this recovery period. The UK government, as we spoke about, have been incredible during the pandemic and supported, as you know, with the various programs, and long may it continue. Guys, I'm sorry we've run out of time, but I just wanted to thank you all for a fantastic panel. Really enjoyed that. Lots to take away, and thank you for sharing your thoughts and insights with us. And if the audience can please, we have a little emoji button on the bottom. If you can please show your appreciation, give our panelists a virtual clap or a virtual kiss. That would be very kind. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Maria, Avi, Jan, Otni, and Moshe. Thank you. And next year, inshallah, we'll be able to do it all together in Tel Aviv. Thank you, guys. And
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anytime.